Rajesh Varrier, I want to understand from you, we're also talking about living in an age of AI and hyper technology. And is that, to your mind, going to leave the women more behind, or is that in fact going to provide a way out and a way forward?
Shereen, first of all, congratulations on your season 3. We in Cognizant are proud sponsors of what you're doing here. I think being a flag bearer on Future Female Forward is just fantastic. Thank you for having me on the show. Your question about AI, let's take it in 2 buckets, right? AI is definitely going to disrupt every industry that we know in different degrees. We have done a study along with Oxford Economics a while back, which looked at about 1,000 jobs comprising of 18,000 tasks, and it tells us that 90% of the jobs will get disrupted, of course, in varying degrees. Now, you look at that lens and you look at the problem statement that you're talking about. There are 2 buckets I would like to put this problem into. One is existing workforce. For the existing workforce, there's a great opportunity for every organization to make sure that the existing workforce is completely trained on AI, irrespective of gender. I have very little worries there because everybody in the workforce will get trained based on the job that they're doing. You have upcoming workforce, which is coming in from universities and colleges, which is the other bucket which I have. And I think it's imperative that industry actually does a partnership with academia to make sure that the colleges and universities have the access to the latest and the greatest in terms of curriculum, in terms of ability to impart education, so that all the men and women coming out of colleges have an equal opportunity to learn the latest and the greatest technologies. Today it is AI. 6 years back, if we were having this conversation, Shereen, we would have been talking about digital technologies. Tomorrow it'll be something else. But I think there is an opportunity for us to bridge any divide that exists with the current way of technologies. But there is a lot of onus on the industry to make sure that we turn around and partner with universities. And Cognizant is, as an example, we are doing that. We are partnering with some 19 different colleges to be able to achieve that. So there's a great opportunity for us to bring parity.
There is an opportunity there, and we need those linkages and those partnerships to work. But Ashish, I want to come back to Ameera's point about the why. And I think we still continue to deal with the why in many, many ways across different sectors. And it doesn't matter what the World Bank says, it doesn't matter what the IMF says in terms of the benefits that the economy will accrue on account of unlocking women as consumers, women as workers. As you speak with CEOs today, as you talk to people in the boardroom today, is the why still an issue that is that's begging an answer?
I think it is, Shereen, and that's why just a mandate may not be sufficient. I think we do need to, there is plenty of research out there that clearly shows that having a higher percentage of women in the workforce, in leadership positions, lead to better outcomes. But I think companies have to experience it themselves. And in India's case, they have to break a lot of barriers. I'll tell you, there are, if you look at the factory, and out in the field, those are the 2 areas where across industries, why is FMCG stuck at 11%? Why is pharma at 11%? Why is banking at 26%? It's because we have in India this myth that it's not safe for women to be out there. We've decided, in a paternalistic manner, that's the case. There are companies that have broken the barriers, where in a logistics warehouse, you'll see women doing jobs that you could never imagine earlier that they would do on the shop floor. But that story is not told enough. And I think that's what's holding us back, is the fact that it's going to lead to a better, more productive work environment. And it's definitely possible. Our labor laws, by the way, are still archaic. There are, if you look at the list of...
But that's for men as well. Overall.
No. If you look, there are in most states, that women are prevented from working in quote-unquote hazardous industries. And if I showed you that list, you'd be appalled.
Yes.
And in some states, they're prevented from working at night. Now, that's changing, but changing too slowly.
Changing too slowly, you're absolutely right. Vartika, Shukla, let me ask you, we're talking about next steps. In your experience leading engineers India today, how do you draw more women into manufacturing, into engineering, into construction? how do you retain them? How do you ensure that there is, in fact, a pipeline of leaders who also happen to be women?
So before I get on to that, I'll just add to what Ashish mentioned. I think we need to believe as leaders, we need to believe as boards that we have the power and ability to change things, change laws if we are convinced. And I'll supplement this by an example. One of our sister PSUs who runs a refinery in Panipat actually went out there and changed the law for night shift working in the state. And today, one of their plants is completely manned by women. And they could do that because they were convinced that we need to show that as an example of not just breaking the barrier, but also having other women believe that it is possible for them to work in a safe environment, to actually be as competent, as able as men. And that's important. I believe that this reinforces the fact that women in general are, see that as an example to aspire, to have ambition, to have examples which are right in front of them, which actually provides them that work environment. So it's very important for us who sit in positions to make that change, to actually use these opportunities to create platform. And I'm telling you, with my experience, it is very much possible. Let me now come to the construction sites. We are a project management company. We run about 55 sites all over the world where we implement projects in the oil and gas sector, in infrastructure sector, and NFM. There are several sectors that we work in. In our technical domain, we have 15% women, which is not easy for any organization, any engineering company to actually nurture and have. We have leadership positions which are actually steered by women. And they look at projects not only in India, but also overseas. Now, that comes from a fact that the environment is an enabler. Culturally, we've been having equal opportunities for everybody, equal space. Of course, there are struggles. Nothing comes without struggles. To say that everything is hunky-dory is not true. But where there's a will, there is a way. That is also true. So we run programs wherein we inspire women to go to construction site. We call it Tejaswini, where we nurture talent who actually want to come out and take up these steps. So we put them together. We put them separately also. And a lot of our technical staff, the 15% that I mentioned, actually go to sites, difficult conditions, harsh conditions. So I have been through that crucible as well. And I tell you, it's a joy for us to see them shine. And it also brings value to our organization as well.
Absolutely, and I think that is important to highlight. We've talked about SOAR, and we're now talking about Tejaswini, and we need many, many more examples, ladies and gentlemen. So a round of applause for the work that's being done to encourage women to make their way into spaces that previously didn't exist. But Prabha, I want to understand from you your own journey of having worked across different organizations to now leading an organization in the FMCG sector. You talked about the challenges of drawing women into sales, but not just drawing women into the workforce in different functions, but keeping them there. Give me the 2 or 3 practical things that have worked and the things that you believe we need to focus on.
So I think the couple of things that have worked hard, really the obvious things. One, which is to guarantee that you will have a job and a job of equal stature or better than the one that you left when you go on maternity leave or you go on break to have a child. The second is to aid with childcare, whether it's a creche or it's a support for a creche. Those are the really obvious ones. But I think the one thing that perhaps we need to think about as we do this is to make parenting an equal opportunity thing. Whenever we talk about parenting, we tend to talk about what the woman will do and how much leave she can take and what she can do. And I know there are many men out there who would really dearly love an opportunity as much to be fathers to their children, and yet maybe either the sanction is not there or the policies are not there. And so we've tried to make a move. We've started 3 months of paternity leave up from the 2 weeks, encouraging men actually to take time off when they have children, because after a while you can certainly do pretty much everything that the mom could do, and maybe that will help as well. But I do think that's an area where we could make even more progress than we've made so far.
Oh, absolutely. I think sharing the load is crucial, it's critical, and we do need to take that message forward. Rajesh, you know, the 2 or 3 things that have worked with what you've been able to do on the ground level, especially to draw women into manufacturing on the assembly line and keep them there.
Yeah, I spoke about some of these, Shereen. I think one is getting the union leaders to believe that it's important, because then they take ownership, and we've seen that in in all our manufacturing facilities where we're building that. Having that as a leadership conversation is a huge facilitator, because then they believe that is an important priority. The second, and the challenge I think we still have to grapple with, is keeping women in workplace, especially in manufacturing, because the typical tendency is, they would feel they are, let's say, societally permitted to work till they get married, but that paradigm could change once they're married, especially in the blue collar. So I think that needs work on attitude training, and we've actually, in our Nagpur plant where we make tractors, the women, the girls who work there actually, do skits and share stories, because that's a great way to build confidence. So, going back, and I spoke to my parents, who spoke to someone else's father, to say, this is a place you can work in. We find that really working. The storytelling around this, and using skits on shop floors to tell stories of how they went back and created word of mouth. So that's, I think, something that's really working. Just on what's not working, I think making this happen in sales is something we've struggled a lot with. We have to keep in mind, it's not just the feeling of security, there's just complete lack of infrastructure.
Yeah.
And that is a challenge today. I see that changing a lot with highways and roadways coming up, where you have restrooms coming up along the way. So there's a very, very rapid change that's happening. But there is a real issue of infrastructure. There is a real issue of quality of hotels in many towns, the safety that those places offer. So I think there are real issues around deep field work. Organizations like Ashish said have found ways around it, and one of the solutions we have found wherever we're doing this is to hire locally and not transfer across states, because then there is a comfort of having grown up in that area, and there's they know how to navigate their way around that geography.